The cameras were rolling, the lights were blinding, and the air was thick with the collective heartbeat of thousands. It was meant to be a celebration, a grand return, a long-awaited appearance that fans had been counting the days for. But within moments, everything shifted. Jin, BTS's eldest, the one often called the taehyung who never breaks, suddenly turned his face away, his hands trembling. And then it happened. He cried. But why? Why would someone who's always kept a strong front, someone who has trained his face to smile for the sake of millions, suddenly break down in front of them all? What happened in that exact second that shattered his composure? And more importantly, what did Jungkook do just before that moment? This wasn't a press event. This wasn't a drama scene. This was real. It was raw, unscripted, and honest. So brutally honest that fans who were present said they'll never forget the way their hearts cracked all at once when they saw him turn away from the stage lights. But to understand what really happened, why Jin cried, why Jungkook stood still like a statue, why even the most seasoned staff members looked visibly shaken, we must go back. Way back. Not just days, not just months, but to the very beginning of this unraveling emotional thread. IT began not with Jin, but with Jungkook, the golden magne, now transformed by the rigors of military service, had just finished an unexpected performance, an explosive, soul-stirring, completely unannounced rendition of Jamais Vu at BTS Festa. No teasers, no press release, not even a whisper of a spoiler. Jungkook simply walked out, and when the fans realized it was really him, clean-cut, uniformed, but still carrying that unmistakable intensity in his eyes, they screamed. But their screams turned into silence when he began to sing, and not just sing. He trembled. His voice cracked in places that weren't part of the song's key changes. His breathing wavered. His hands curled, clenching the mic like it was the only thing grounding him to the moment. And then came the second chorus. His voice lifted, stronger now, filled with something almost too pure to name. Pain, longing, perhaps a quiet apology. The song ended, the crowd froze, and from the side of the stage, where no spotlight reached, someone stepped forward. Someone who had been standing there for minutes, watching. That someone was Jin. He had returned from his own military service not long ago, but unlike Jungkook, he hadn't yet made a public stage appearance with such emotional weight. He had smiled through interviews. He had appeared in variety shows. But this performance, this unfiltered reunion with music, was a different battlefield, and perhaps it struck him in that instant. As Jungkook bowed, shaking slightly, not saying a word. Jin's eyes filled with something no one expected to see: water. His expression didn't change, not immediately. He didn't sob. There were no theatrics. Just one tear, then two, until he lifted his hand to his face and quietly turned away from the crowd, shoulders stiff. And still, he tried to hide it, but you can't hide something like that from an army of fans who have memorized your every gesture for over a decade. You can't hide it from the members who've shared dorm rooms, stages, heartbreaks, and hospital visits. And you certainly can't hide it from yourself. What was he thinking? Was it regret for not being able to hold Jungkook's hand during the hardest part of his training? Was it guilt for watching his youngest brother carry a weight he once carried alone? Or was it something deeper, something he never spoke of even during their most honest broadcasts? Multiple fan accounts posted seconds after it happened. Jin Hyung just cried. Not just tears, real crying. One user wrote, "I never thought I'd see it. He was so quiet, but it broke all of us." Others speculated instantly. Had Jungkook whispered something to Jin off mic before going on stage? Was this performance more than just a surprise? Was it a secret gift? No one knows. And that's what makes it even more powerful later that night. They get released a single photo. Just one. It was black and white. It showed Jungkook sitting alone on the edge of the stage, head down, his hands clasped in front of him like he was praying. Behind him, a blurry figure, Jin, stood in the shadows, looking on. an O caption, an O press statement, an O announcement. Just silence. And in that silence, a storm of speculation began. Some pointed to an old V-Live years ago, where Jin had once told fans, "One day, when this is all over, I want to see Jungkook perform again. Just once. Not as an idol, not as a star, just as Jungkook." Did he mean this night? Others connected it to the mysterious letter Jungkook wrote during his military training, a letter that was never published in full, only referenced by a fellow recruit who said, "There's a part where he talks about his hyungs, about the one who gave him the courage to sing, and how he wants to repay that someday." Could that be tonight? And if so, what price did it take? The truth is, there is no press release that can explain a tear. There is no fan theory that can fully unravel what lives inside a bond like theirs. Years of late nights, hospital rooms, shared meals, unspoken apologies. What happened on that stage wasn't a performance. It was a reckoning. For Jin, it may have been the moment he realized the youngest member wasn't the kid he once watched from a distance anymore, but a man who had walked through fire, returned from it, and still chose to sing. For Jungkook, it may have been the first time he performed not to prove himself, but to offer something. To give something back. For ARMY, it was a moment etched into eternity. And yet, even now, the questions remain. Why did Jin cry? Why didn't he speak afterward? Why did he leave the event early, his car pulling away with tinted windows, leaving thousands still calling his name? Why did Jungkook stay behind? Why was there no encore? Why did J-Hope later tweet only a single heart emoji and then delete it within 5 minutes? Why is taehyung still silent on social media? Why did RM post an old video clip of Jin and Jungkook laughing backstage from 2016 without context, just hours after the performance? It's these questions that keep the fans awake. Not in frustration, but in awe, because sometimes the most powerful stories don't end with answers. They end with silence, with a single spotlight, with a tear that was never meant to fall, with the oldest hyung crying not for himself, but perhaps for all of them, for everything they've endured, lost, and reclaimed. And in that one moment, it wasn't just Jin crying. IT was all of us. That tear was not just Jin's. It belonged to years they couldn't speak about, to letters they never sent, to songs that were shelved because they were too personal. It belonged to the unspoken moments between laughter and silence, to the stories told only with glances, to all the pain they buried beneath choreography and world tours. And at that exact second, it all resurfaced. On stage, in front of thousands, under a sky that no longer felt like protection but exposure. Jin didn't want to be seen like that, but he had no choice, because what Jungkook did wasn't just a performance. It was a confession,
A goodbye.
a reunion, a promise, all at once. And Jin wasn't ready for it. He wasn't ready for the way Jungkook looked at him as he stepped back toward the stage edge. He wasn't ready for the quiet nod, the kind they used to give each other before debut showcases, as boys, not as legends. He wasn't ready for the way the spotlight caught the very same expression he once wore the night they said goodbye to the old dorm. That dorm, Dio, you remember it? Jin does. He remembers the peeling wallpaper, the mattress that dipped in the center, the cracked rice cooker, the nights Jungkook would stumble back after vocal training and collapse beside him without speaking, the nights Jin would sit quietly in the kitchen, preparing extra soup because he knew Jungkook hadn't eaten again. He remembers the promise he made to himself back then. No matter how big we get, I'll protect him. But you can't protect someone from growing up, and you can't protect yourself from the moment you realize they no longer need your protection, but still seek your approval. That's what broke Jin. IT wasn't just Jungkook's voice. IT wasn't the lyrics. IT was the way he sang them, the way his voice cracked, just slightly on the line, "I'm afraid I'm running out of time." Because what Jungkook didn't say in that moment said everything. He wasn't singing just for the fans. He was singing for Jin, for the nights Jin stayed awake, while Jungkook cried silently in the shower. For the time, he secretly replaced Jungkook's torn-in ears without saying a word. For the way he would always clap the loudest when Jungkook hit high notes during rehearsal. For the time he told the managers, "He's not ready yet, give him time," when everyone else was pressuring Jungkook to carry more. Jungkook never forgot any of it, and he couldn't say it with words, he said it with a song, and Jin broke. They didn't speak afterward. At least, not publicly. But backstage? That's another story, one that hasn't been officially shared, but whispered among crew members who couldn't help but feel the weight of what had happened. One staff member, who chose to remain anonymous, said, "I've seen every festa since 2015. Nothing felt like this." After Jungkook left the stage, there was a moment backstage where Jin just stood still. His eyes were red. He wasn't hiding it anymore. Jungkook walked past him and stopped. They didn't hug. They didn't say anything. They just stood there. I don't know how long. No one moved. We didn't dare to. That moment, silent, sacred, unrecorded, is now being called the most powerful moment in BTS Festa history, and fans are still trying to piece together the full story. Why now? Why this song? Why was Jin present at all?